And people like Bob and Christine were joined by the likes of Janet Rice in Victoria, who helped form the Victorian Greens. They had the foresight, they had the vision, and they had the courage to know that Australian politics needed this voice, a voice for the voiceless. And they held hope, and they held their vision. When our vote was 1% of the vote, it climbed to 2% of the vote. It went to 4% of the vote before we had any representation. And look at where we are at now, represented at all levels of government across this country. So these founders of the party are the people that I think about when going gets tough. And politics has its swings and roundabouts. It's not smooth sailing. But I encourage you to think about the people like Bob and Christine and Janet who never lost hope about our movement. And as you all know, and as everyone who knows Janet knows, that Janet is like the glue of our party. She keeps us connected to each other. My great pleasure to introduce Senator Janet Rice.
Thank you so much, Samantha. And I want to bring a team up on stage. Come on. The senators can squeeze up here. Candidates, volunteers, staff, all of the amazing people. I mean, I'd like to have all of you up on stage, but we probably can't quite do that. But here's a representation of some of the people that have made our amazing result. Yeah, we all fit? Yes. Look, I want to start by acknowledging that we are on the land of the Wurundjeri people, pay respect to their elders past, present and emerging, and to acknowledge that this land was stolen and that the Greens are committed to telling the truth and working with Aboriginal people, our First Nations people, until we have justice. And that means sovereignty, and it means treaties, and the Greens will continue to work until that occurs. Look, today, the results, we don't know what they're going to be yet. We're still waiting. We're probably going to be waiting for weeks for some of the results. But I can tell you that we have had an amazing success as Greens today, because it is clear that the mood in the country has changed. I was on a booth today in Footscray. I live in Footscray. This is a booth that I've handed out how to vote cards for the last 20 years. Since I stood as the first candidate for Gellibrand in 1996. And in 1996, we got 4% of the vote. Today, person after person after person was absolutely engaged and wanting to see a change in our country. I mean, it was a great booth because we had a queue the whole day, and I was there from 10 to 8 in the morning, right through until 5:30 when I thought I'd actually better get in the line and vote myself, or I wasn't going to get around to it. And so I spoke with the majority of the people that voted that booth, and I can tell you that they really liked what the Greens had to say. And I talked to them about climate change. I said, you know, the Greens, voting climate for your future. I talked to so many young families with young kids, and they said, yep. And they nodded their heads and they took the Greens card and they went in there to vote. Last time, I think at that booth, our vote was in the mid-20s. I am absolutely certain that we blitzed that booth today, totally. And it's a sign of things to come, that the days of the two-party duopoly, the days of them taking us for granted, the days of the politics of hatred, the days of the politics of division, of inequality are over. And our Greens vision that we have been building for the last 27 years, that knowing that Australia can do better, knowing that we can trust each other to work together and to be building a politics in this country and building a future for this country where we have ecological sustainability, where we have social justice, where we have peace and non-violence, where we have participatory democracy, that we are going to be able to achieve that. And that is an amazing and beautiful thing. And how has it happened? It's because all of us have been working together. And as I said, I've been working on election campaigns now for 27 years. And I can tell you this campaign was by far the best. It has been just extraordinary. The camaraderie, the togetherness, the working of so many people together. I mean, I've got a selection here of some of our House of Representatives candidates. I know a lot of them are still back at parties, in their home turf. So we've got James here from Sabaratnam, who did an amazing job. David Ristrom, who just flies through the flag in Cooper, incredibly. And then Kim, Sandy and Isaac. And candidates like Kim and Isaac. We know so many of our candidates right across the state, there is nothing that they get to gain from being a candidate for the Greens other than knowing that they are standing up for what's right. They are standing up to fly the Greens flag. They know that it's highly unlikely, as much as we would love it, that James and Kim are going to be the next members for Sabaratnam and Isaacs. I think James being the next member for Sabaratnam will be pretty good, beating Bill Shorten, but that is yet to come. So they are doing it because they know it's important. And then they are supported by the most amazing campaign teams who get up at 6 o'clock in the morning to be handing out flyers at railway stations. I know a lot of you have been doing that, who have been putting the booth kits together, who have been standing at pre-poll for 3 solid weeks, working huge days. And with this, talking about pre-poll and early voting, I really want to have a massive call out to my amazing wife, Penny, who is sitting over here. Penny sat down and looked at her diary, her calendar for the last 3 weeks and said, yeah, she had 1 day off in the last 3 weeks. She has been there at Sunshine West, at Footscray West, at St Albans. St Albans is the biggest booth in the state. And Penny has been staffing it by herself, solid, for the last week. Thank you. And I know, all across the country, there are partners, there are families, there are friends who have been putting in similar efforts because they know it's important. Because we've got a future that we know that we have to be working towards. And we are doing it together. And then the other people on stage here behind me are my incredible staff and my incredible team of volunteers who, the work that they have put in has just been extraordinary. And again, every Greens Member of Parliament has got those staff and the volunteers who are then working with all of you to bring all this together and bring it home. So thank you. Actually, I've got one more group of people up here that I really want to acknowledge too, and that's other members of the Senate team. Apasra, Sabaratnam. And we haven't got Alice or Judy here, I'm sure, in Ballarat and on the Surf Coast respectively. We stood an all-women Senate team this time. Because the Green women are the history of this party and they are the future of this party. Together. And we know that we will work for women, we will work for our multicultural community, we'll work for everybody across this wide country of ours until we've got justice for all of us. So I thank you so much for everything that you have done, everything you're going to continue to do in the future. I think our results tonight are really going to show that this today has been a turning point. I bloody hope we get rid of the awful government that we've had for the last 5 years. But whatever we do, we know we have succeeded in really bringing this country together to work for a better future for all of us. So thank you all.
Sarah, can you tell us about what sort of response you got from the voters today when you were handing out vote cards?
Well, we took to this election a pretty amazing policy, which was free TAFE and university. This has been a policy that's been fully costed. So I was able to talk to a lot of voters about the fact that we are in the fourth industrial revolution, which effectively means that technology and the pace of change of technology is so great that people will need to reskill and upskill because they will need to actually change careers when jobs that they're doing are becoming redundant. And voters were so impressed, they could not believe that this was something that was available to them and that it was a fully costed policy and one that any government, if they have the impetus, could actually introduce. We're living in a country where we've got people stuck in our offshore and onshore detention centres. We have to recognise that we are breaking a number of laws. We have signed the 1951 Human Rights Convention, and we effectively are holding people and calling them illegal when they really are not. And we're also refouling a lot of people back to danger. So that's awful. So I think the Greens have always said that we need to support our First Nations people towards sovereignty and signing treaties. Not one treaty, but multiple treaties, and actually treaties that First Nations people actually work together, and we support that. We should never be the ones driving it. And at the end of the day, for me, much of our racism and Islamophobia in this country is built on over 2 centuries of discrimination, racism and genocide of our First Nations people. In this Senate election, I really want Janet to be re-elected. It is so important to have her in Parliament. She's done some amazing work over the last 4 years, and I think she's got a lot more years up her sleeve to do some great work in the Senate.
Just asking about your future, Apasra. Yeah, are you looking at running again?
Yeah, so for me, I see myself running again in the federal election. I'd like to be able to run in the Senate. I think that is where I'd love to be. And so I definitely would like to see myself running again.
It's been a huge night, but what I'm really proud of is the contribution of all of our team across the state has meant that our Greens vote has held, in fact potentially increased in many seats. Looks likely that I've been returned to the Senate, although there's still a lot of counting to go. Looks likely that all of our senators across the country have been returned, and Adam, of course, has absolutely romped at home in Melbourne. Now, our number one aim for this election was to return all of our sitting senators, and Adam looked very likely that we've been successful in doing that. I'm really concerned about where the country's going if we have the Morrison government returned. Still too close to call. In fact, in 2 of the seats where we hold where there's potential change in Higgins and Kooyong, we haven't written off Jason Ball or Julian Burnside's chances yet. So there's a lot of counting still to go, and we're still hopeful. But what I know is that from talking to people over the last weeks and days, and particularly today, people are passionate about achieving a positive future for Australia, where they have hope and optimism for the future, and that means dealing with our climate crisis and shifting us to a clean, green future. And that's what the Greens will keep working for, regardless of the outcome of who forms government. We will keep working for people, tackling economic inequality, working for people, not big business, until we get that positive, optimistic future for all of us.